keep those questions coming in. I'll keep assigning them over to Jörgen, and I will quickly hand it off to you right now.
Okay, it's better if I unmute. So let's start the second part here with a look into the Configuration Manager technical preview. I think I've done what's new in Configuration Manager and always try to talk about technical previews as well. Doing that because that's always fun, because it's new and it's still in production and we can still manipulate it and come with good feedback and stuff. But I've never done a whole session, so it will be really fun. And there are some really cool things coming in Configuration Manager. When it will come, well, we're never really sure. We'll see. My name is still Jörgen Nilsson, and I still blog for the same places. And you can reach me at Twitter if you have any other questions after this one as well. And I live in Sweden as well. If anyone missed that. So let's do this. Configuration Manager technical preview. Before, when we started this of all, still see that it would be. We always said that there's 3 current branch releases of Configuration Manager, and then we have 12. We have 1 release of technical preview every month, but that's not true anymore because. I think it's just because we said that at events, the product group started doing .2 releases, so like 1909.2, 1908.2. So we have 2 releases in a month. So it's impossible to say that it's 15 releases. It's more like 17 to 20 releases per year of Configuration Manager. And I think testing the technical preview is like, I feel like a kid on Christmas. It's so cool with new features and you can test it out. Not everything works the first time. That's why it's a technical preview, but it's great to provide feedback as well because you can see your feedback come to alive in the product later. So if you don't test technical previews today, try to find the time. I think it's great fun. And every time for every technical preview, there's a what you call it, scenarios. So if we look here, we have the what's new in Configuration Man in 1909. So there you can see the technical pre, and you can also see the times. And this is the scenario you can test. So you can actually try to reach those progress. I've done this a couple of times. I have had some issues, so back and forth. So some of them actually turned back because I tested something else that they needed me to reverse that setting or something like that. So it will update all together, but you can actually see what you tested before as well. So this is a good place to start with the new technical preview as well. What's new? What can be changed? What happens? What are they working on? Orchestration groups, that's cool. I want to do something with that. And then you can see that there's a scenario to test it. So I think technical previews are really fun. So let's dig into it. The app model is getting some true love this time. And it actually, it was when I presented with Panu in last time, he actually said it as well. We can finally have an icon on a task sequence because the product group told us that they will never do that. But what we can have now is we can actually, when we deploy an application, we can actually select that one of the application types. Let's see if it moves as fast as I like. One of the application types we can have, if I'm not too eager at it now. What's it doing? Okay. We can actually have a new deployment type called task sequence. And that's cool because then we can deploy a task sequence for some machines, and some machines we can have an MSI file, but then we can say, okay, if you have, maybe Chrome is a bad example, if you want to uninstall something if it's installed, we can have different requirements on them, and then we can have different ones. So I can actually select from here task sequence. And then I can say name it, and then I can say, give me the install task sequence for this one. I actually have one that installs Orca, great. And give me an uninstall task sequence. What should happen if I uninstall the app? So I can actually have, and then we need to supply detection methods. So everything is the same, but I can actually have a task sequence as a deployment method. And in many scenarios, we actually do deployments of apps using a task sequence still, because we need to do some things before and after and so on. And now we can actually incorporate it in the app model. So it looks nice in Software Center. It will look nice icons and everything. So that's actually a really cool thing as well, that we can have task sequences as a deployment type. So I think one of the scenarios would be, as I said, we need to do for machines having, say that we deploy a new antivirus solution or whatever. If you have the old one installed, we detect that with the requirement, and then we'll uninstall it, run a task sequence, uninstall it, do whatever we have. But if it's a new deployment, we don't have to do that, and then we just use an MSI to install it. So we can have the same app, so it's only one place to troubleshoot, one thing to deploy, and then we have easier to follow up as well. And I think this will be epic when we can do this. Let's hope it's in the next version of the released product. Phase deployment templates, I mentioned it before, but we can actually, when we do a phase deployment now, we can actually save it as a template or use a template. I don't wonder what I've done with the performance on that machine. I just bought new memory anyway. So I can select templates. So I have a template from Chrome already, and then I can use that template to deploy it instead. So that's actually, that will make sure that it's, this is also technical preview for you. You never know what really happens if something changed. I think I know what that problem is, so I will probably report that after the session, because I created a template in the old technical preview, and this is upgraded, and I haven't tested that one since. So let's assume that's why. So we can actually save it as a template. And these are things that's extremely cool. Microsoft actually starting to modify and update the task sequence editor, so we can actually search for things now. And that's, if we have big complex task sequences, that's actually very, very useful. So if we go down to a task sequence, I don't have any really complex in my tech preview. You know, it's only 10 clients. That's the drawback of using it. But if I say edit, I can find steps or find whatever I like. So I can search for, what do I want to search for? Do I want to search for a step name, step description, group name, group description, or a condition? So we can do something like this, for example. See if we can find something with a condition. So we can search for everything to find it more easy. Or let's just do it like that. So every step that is found is highlighted in yellow, and we can see what we want. We can also do continue on error and filter by that, and filter on only step that has conditions. So we can actually search, and if we have a long task sequence, this will be an extremely nice time saver, without a doubt. That's amazing. I think this is, I'm excited about all the tech preview things, so I shouldn't say anything. So we can search for conditions as well. So we can search in the condition string as well if we like. And this is, how many times have I wanted to do this? This is just amazing as well, because in many times we do complex, especially if we work with drivers, we do complex see if I have any. We can do complex conditions. I didn't have one now, but now we can actually select that one and say copy, and I can actually paste it to another step. Say paste. Do you want to paste it before, after, or under this step? So I can actually create add if statements and then paste it in that, or so I can paste it underneath that. So I can actually copy paste conditions, and in many scenarios where we've created many conditions for drivers or TPM or whatever it is, we can actually reuse all those now and just creating them one and just copying them. And you can copy them between task sequences as well. So not only in one task sequence. So that's amazing that we actually can do paste and do copy paste now. High performance is also a good one as well. Many of us use this, and I've used it with mixed success, but I think it's because when we started doing it, it was kind of too early, I guess. But we can actually set on the deployment. Maybe that you can set that it should be, or maybe just because it's not on the deployment then, of course, just because I said so. That's the problem. You don't use the technical preview day to day, right? So if we look at the properties then, we have a tab called performance, and we can run it as high performance plans. Many of us added that in the community before as a step in the task sequence to change to the high performance plan and then change it back again and then change it in the full OS again. Because you won't see any performance gain at all on a virtual machine, but if you do this on a physical box, you will see a performance increase if you change the performance plan. And again, when we do an OS deployment, in many scenarios, maybe the end user is in front of the user, and we always want to give them the best service possible in the world. So that's a good thing. But keep in mind that we've seen troubles before where task sequence failed just because we switched this as well, because the machine is faster starting up and the task sequence engine isn't ready yet and stuff like that. But that should be, I think that's sorted out, but keep it in mind if you troubleshoot afterwards that could be a potential issue as well. And this is also a good example of Microsoft listening to the community and also to user voice. That it's actually in the product, but because I said you can find blog posts with these settings that are, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, and there's user voice items as well, and now it's in the product. So they actually listen to us, and I think that's a really strong commitment as well from the product group. We can run a command line and actually output the variable to task sequence variable. If we run a PowerShell script, that's easy to create an output, right? But if we run a command line, that's harder today, let's put it that way. Now we can actually just output the result of the command line to a task sequence variable. And that's also extremely useful if we have some legacy commands we want to reuse or whatever, and then we can automate other things after that. I like automation. Everything should be like dynamic. All the applications should come down dynamically during OSD and everything. So without a doubt that this is a good thing as well. This is cool as well. We got it in the release product for image import, but now when we import an upgrade, we can actually select just the ones we want and not all of them. Let's see if we can see it on my machine, see it on the image after I imported it, because that will take a while. So we can actually see which editions are imported, and I only have one. So when I import a new one, we can actually say, even if the full release, we can actually see, that was a mistake, of course. We can actually see the whole, see which one we want to get in there. Why is everything messing with me? OS upgrades, we can take one that we haven't had before, and then we'll take sources. Oh, we'll take it like this. I think should be fine, right? And then we can say that I only want to extract a specific image index from the install Vim. So I can actually get rid of the other ones. It will save us a little amount of time and a little amount of space, but it will also improve the, if we do updates of that one afterwards, it will actually improve that part as well. So it's nice. We can actually do this. That will actually save time and disk space and give it more possibilities for us to customize things. So I like it. That's good. That's a next evolution of what's in 1906, I think. We have multicast support. This was hard to document, basically because the UI doesn't reflect what's in the docs. So if we look at the multicast support, there hasn't been that much new things in multicast for a long time. And there's been some limitations. Now there's two benefits of this. We can finally get rid of the Windows deployment service. After patching my server last time, Windows deployment service didn't start. So what I did instead of fixing it, I just ticked the box saying I don't want it anymore. Replace it with the built-in one. One of the limitations with the native configuration manager Pixie support has been multicast, but now it's supported as well. And we can also do multicast content in full OS. So if we look today, this is from a package. It's hard to see. I just a stupid way of taking screenshots. So basically, we can actually say that a package and everything can be deployed to multicast as well. So there's new options as well if you look at the packages tab. So we can actually use multicast for more, and that was a long time since we saw improvements to that part. So I think that will enlighten some scenarios to use multicast again. So, and this is cool as well. We can download on demand over internet for task sequence. Today you have to do download the whole task sequence today. If we're going to do it through CMG or do it from over internet, you need to pre-download all the content. But now we can actually only download the parts that we need, and that's good. That's really good. So you should be able to test that out as well in the technical preview. But now we come to what's the big show in technical preview right now, and that's the EmBam integration. EmBam stands for Microsoft BitLocker Administration and Monitoring, and it's a standalone tool today, which requires MDOP license, a desktop optimization pack, which is included in Enterprise, in Windows Enterprise license with software assurance on top of that. How the licensing will be when this is released in Configuration Manager integrated, I don't know, because it's not released yet. We'll see. But I think this is great. I think EmBam is definitely the best way of managing BitLocker keys today, as we have support for key rotation, and we have it in a different place than AD or Azure AD. So if I delete my machine, or if I have a script that do housekeeping, so I can have my AD or Azure AD kept clean with only machines, because the machine, that's an identity, the computer account. and we want those to be clean. So we want to remove computer accounts that isn't used anymore. But if we remove them from Azure AD or AD, we also remove the BitLocker key. If we use EmBam, we have the BitLocker key in a secure SQL somewhere. We could encrypt that SQL database today. If we can do that with when it's integrated, not likely. We'll see, because it's in the same database as SCCM. So that's why EmBam is the best way of managing your BitLocker recovery keys today. And what will be really cool when it's integrated is that if you work with it today, upgrading it to a new release, every time, because EmBam has a client on machines, so every time there's a new build of Windows 10, like for instance 1903 of Windows 10, then there's a May update for EmBam that you need to apply on the server side, and that normally requires that you uninstall EmBam, install it again, and apply the latest update, and you need to apply an MSP to all your MSIs and do that, and so on and so on. So it's upgrading EmBam it's kind of quite a bit of work to keep that. It's a couple of servers you need, and it's kind of a work to get it updated and managed in a good way. And you need backup and everything. So when this is integrated in SCCM, that will save us a lot of time. So basically, if we look at the console, it will add for us. I've written here because this is where the development is going really fast. It's under endpoint protection. We can set our EmBam policies. It's exactly the same policies we set for EmBam using group policies today, but we do it with in Configuration Manager instead. Note that the EmBam feature in Tech Preview requires HTTPS. So you must be running HTTPS on everything. And the clients need to do it as well. And if you look at it, it's quite not that strange to understand, right? Because we actually transfer the recovery keys for BitLocker. It's nice that they are actually transferred over an encrypted communication channel. How that will be, if it will support what's called enhanced HTTP, where you can have SCCM to generate your self-signed certificate for all the roles. I don't know. We'll see when it's released. Right now, in the technical preview, it requires HTTPS to be able to send in the keys. So let's start with that one, and then we'll show everything as well, because this is the most fun there is in the technical preview. Asset and compliance, and we have endpoint protection, we have BitLocker management, and here we can create a new one. My power users, they can have something fun. And I want to configure operating system drive and client management. So what do I want to do? I want to enable encryption, and I want, we can take that one, and we want the same thing here, shows a strength, same thing, basically, for Windows 10. And then we'll go for the next one. Configure management services, enabled. And if you've used this before, we normally have to supply an HTTPS address and a long string, but it knows where that is because that's on your MP right now. So we don't have to do that. And then we'll say what should be sent in. And then we can say, should we manage the operating system drive encryption? Yes, we should. We want it to allow a TPM, and we don't need a PIN. We can live without PIN. And then we save it, and then we deploy it as we do with all policies, basically. So what happens when we add it is that on our web server, right now there was a feature, not a bug. So I had to install it manually because didn't install automatically. There was a line saying that it couldn't install, so I fixed it afterwards. But if we look at the IIS, we will actually have a new endpoint. We will have it here. That's called MP SMS MP MBAM. That's our MBAM service for incoming recovery passwords and keys and TPM hash. So we will actually see that in here as well. So we can see that it's a role in the system basically. So that's really good. And if we didn't do that, I had to run the script to reinstall it manually, but you shouldn't have to do that later on, I hope. So basically that will happen. What will happen on the client side now when I enable this is that the client will get hit by a policy. So we have 2 new log files, 1 new log file. So if I look in SMS logs, I have something called BitLocker management handler. Oh, and I don't have CM trace. That's really bad for me. So here I can see that it's actually installing. This is the lines I was after. It's actually installing the EmBam client MSI automatically when the policy hits the machine. So I don't have to deploy the EmBam client anymore. It's totally integrated. And the group policy handler is responsible of taking the configuration and converting it to settings so the EmBam client understands it. So that's those 2 we can have to see that it works. And that means that we don't have to update the EmBam client anymore. So when we update FCCM, we get the new version of the EmBam client. And if we look in the event viewer, if you've used EmBam before, everything is as before. So under application and services, which isn't extremely fast, we have a node for EmBam, and there we can see the service health on the machine if there's anything wrong. So we do it like this, and then we have somewhere nice here, right? We should have it here somewhere, EmBam. And then we have operational. I've had some errors, like a week ago too, when I installed it. It couldn't report, couldn't contact the remote endpoint. That was because it wasn't installed yet. And then we can see here operational that the EmBam policies are applied and the recovery keys for the volume has been escrowed successfully to the service. So that's that will give us hopefully less work with the client. And for the part in the server, we actually don't see them in the console. So if we want to be really nosy and see them right now, we have to look in SQL. Or we can use what came in the latest technical preview instead to watch them, to get the keys out of there. So one of the questions that came when this one was released, because there's no end user. In EmBam, there was a help desk website, and there was a service desk website where you could get keys either as service desk or as an end user, but they weren't included in the first one, so there was no way of getting the recovery keys more than looking in the tables directly. Then we only need to remember what they were called. That's a good one as well. They actually have the same name as they had before in an EmBam standalone. So there shouldn't be, if you worked with it before, you will see it when you find it. So they're here. So there we can see all my machines that are reporting in. So here I can see the machines that are applied, that's hit by the policy and reported in. So that's the TPM password hash for the machines that actually took control of the TPM ship when the EmBam client was installed. And then we have the recovery keys as well. So I have the hardware keys here. So I actually have the data in the database. So that's the recovery key package as well. So we actually have it in the configuration manager database now. But as I said, there was no, in 1908, there was no way of getting this information out. In 1909, we actually got a self-service portal is back, and the help desk portal is back, exactly the same way as they were in EmBam standalone, actually. So now I can go to, if I take my machine here and I open the fancy, very much up-to-date browser, and I go to self-service, and I log in as something that has permissions to do anything like that, hopefully. I get this is the self-service part. So here you can write your text saying that by using this website, you comply to the following policies and so on. And then I can actually get my, I can type in the recovery name, and I got it in Swedish as well. Excellent. And then I can select the cause of why I did it, and then I get my recovery key. And the same for the service desk part. I hope it's here. It's called help desk. So here I have the help desk view where I can do driver recovery as help desk instead, and manage TPM as well. So basically it's exactly the same portals as we had before. What also was added is actually reports. There was a small SQL hiccup in the latest release. So if you are going to test this, I think I have the link in the presentation somewhere. There's a SQL command you need to run to get it to work. But we actually have new reports now called BitLocker management. Let's see if we can get them. BitLocker management. They are not. There's something that's really. There's something sketchy with them. So they will actually fail one time, but you can actually select the correct collection afterwards, and then you actually will get nice reports on what the state is on your BitLocker estate, basically. Are they compliant, use, or exempt? That means that they postponed encryption. Is TPM visible but not initialized? So we can actually get information on how it looks out there. We can take that one as well if we like. I think that's that should be the same issue with the collection. And then we do it like that, and it will work anyway. So then I can see my enterprise summary report saying that I have 4 managed computers by EmBam. They are 100% compliant. That's good, even in my little test environment. And they are compliant, and they haven't postponed anything or haven't postponed. So we actually get those nice looking reports and dashboards as well on the state of BitLocker. So I think this when this is released, it's going to be a great thing for all of us. How the migration will look, if there's a question on that, I'm not sure yet. And that's a complex thing as well, because TPM password hashes aren't stored anymore in the same way as before, and even if we tell the machines to report to the EmBam integrated in SCCM, we could in theory we could say that this is the new endpoint for your recovery keys, use this endpoint instead, and then it will report the keys when it runs the next time. The problem is that it won't report the TPM password hash, because that's already reported and then thrown away, as far as I know, at least. I haven't had time to test it, so I will see what the migration path will be. I just added the reports in here if someone wanted them afterwards. So we can actually, to install the self-service portals, there's a PowerShell script to do that. Language support in WinPE, is this even true? We can actually add, now we can say which keyboard layout do you want in PE. I like that because, as you saw before, I like Swedish. Many of the users in Sweden actually have Swedish keyboards. That's surprising. And this will make it much easier for us as well. to actually get the right keyboard. And that's a problem today. If you ask for input or anything, we have to fix that in PE before and after and customize it manually. Now we can just set the correct keyboard layout here. And that's the keyboard layout in PE. And that's also user voice ISO. And user voice got more love this time. We can also select languages in apply Windows setting as well. So if I look at the Windows setting, and if you're doing this and you had a task sequence before, you need to create a new one, otherwise the console will crash when you edit that step. So that's why mine is called 1903 too, because 1903 breaks. Simple as that. So when I go in here, I can actually select input locale, system locale, UI language, fallback, and user locale. That will make it much easier in many scenarios. But if I have complex scenarios and I want to script this from a separate database or separate solution, of course, you can use these variables instead. That's the variables that are populated by those setting in the apply Windows setting. So we can just populate these variables instead, and then that will be applied instead. So I think this looks really nice as well. If it's one step of getting rid of the MDT integration, I'm not sure, but it's definitely a step in the right direction, because this is something that we always struggle with, and all customers always struggle with, setting the language. This was great work, Jörgen. You can't see anything. Basically, we can do, let's see if I can fix that really fast. So that was fast enough, I hope. Basically, we have Teams integration now. I actually thought when I heard this the first time that, why do I need Teams integration? But I can really think that this would actually be really useful, because I can have a look at the who's last active in the last console or active administrators. So if I need to do something, or if I need to shut down something or ask what you're doing, you can actually see, you can actually contact them on Teams. I did a little short video of this instead as my trial expired. So basically, when I click that one, I will just click and say connect to Teams, and then it will connect me to that user using Teams. So I can say message administrator, and then it will start the Teams discussion with that administrator, and I can say go back to sleep and stop messing about what you're doing. It requires, of course, Teams, and it requires that the account you need to have been discovered with Azure AD or AD user discovery as well. So there's some prereqs as well. There's some log files we can dig into this as well. But when I tested it, it works extremely well, and as I said, looking at it first, I was like, why? And now I can see it's a really cool function in big networks where you have 100 or 200 consoles admins connected at the same time. You can actually chat with them and ask what they're doing, and say that we're going to do something more. So I can see that it's really useful, actually. This has been a long way coming. Server groups, I tried to find it before, but I couldn't actually. How long it's been there, because it's been in the product as a pre-release feature for very, very long. Basically, it's a feature where we can say that when you patch this server group, you should run this script before and after, and you should only patch one machine at a time. So what orchestration groups are, it's like the server groups version 2, or I think I started writing server groups on steroids, but I changed it to version 2. And the biggest difference is that they are not targeted to collections anymore. So what you do is you target your collections with the software updates as you normally do. And then for some machines, you do, for the machines, say in Microsoft example, have SQL servers. It could be a front and back end system. We could actually say that which order it should be patched in by using scripts as well. And we have log files, of course, to see how this works. So that's actually the biggest difference between what we had before, is that orchestration groups now they have their own nice little node as well, and we can create new orchestration groups. And an orchestration group, as I said, isn't connected to a collection anymore. So we can call it SQL service or whatever we like, stable sort or cluster 52. And then we can say, okay, which members do I want in this one? In my scenario, I don't, as it's technical preview, you can't have that many machines, right? So give me all my system resources, so I can select some of them so we can continue. So I select which machines are in there, are supposed to be in the same orchestration group. And then we can say how many percent of the machines should be updated at the same time, or how many numbers of machines. Or we can say which sequence they should be serviced in. So that could be useful in a front end, back end, so we can actually patch them in the correct order. We can also run a pre-script, which should exit 0 for success or 3010 for requiring reboot, or a postscript as well. When I tested it, I just used a simple script that throws the text file somewhere, because I'm limited to the number of clients I have as well, and time, of course, and the script timeout as well. And that's basically what we do. So the next time I patch those two machines, the orchestration group will kick into action, and that will be honored when the machines are patched. So that's a big new feature, especially if you patch servers. This is one that I can't show. I tried to yesterday to get it to work, but the options are gone. I think it was there in like 1905 or something, and it's listed on the website. But basically, what it will do in the future is that we should be able to connect to a machine, even if it's on internet, through CMG to remote control. So no more buying additional software to remote control machines when they're on internet. We should be able to use Configuration Manager instead. So that's actually really useful, I would say. And that's really cool. I can't wait for it to come out again. But as I said, it disappeared in 1907 or something this summer. So let's all hope that it's in the next version. We never know, right? Depends on how finished it is and what they find, and any issues or any other concerns with security or whatever, I guess. So we'll see if it makes it. But it would be a great thing. I haven't had time to test this, more of a let's put it in a lack of Azure subscription reason right now. But basically, there's a new standalone tool that will actually, it's called Extend Migrate to Azure. So it will help us either extend our Configuration Manager to Azure, or add, for example, what I think is the coolest thing, a site server high availability option. That's the first thing I can think of. Let's say that I have my on-prem machine, I have my Express route, and I have an Azure subscription, spinning up a site server high available machine that really doesn't do anything more than wait to be fallen over to. That's very cheap and very simple. So that's the first scenario I will test out when I find the time, which hopefully is soon. You can actually move workloads and everything as well. So I will definitely test this out as soon as I have time, because I think especially high availability will be the first, my biggest scenario, I think. And the community hub. It's been around for a long time, and I borrowed this picture from the presentation me and Panu did. If you don't follow Panu on Twitter, you should seek him up. He does a lot of good tweeting as well, and he does a lot of good testing stuff, and he's very good. He's a good guy. There's still only 2 scripts there, but the thought of the community hub is that we all in the community should be able to, yeah, of course, we should be able to, okay, so I'm on the wrong, I should be using a client instead. We should be able to share script, share reports, share whatever we like in the future, I hope. Right now there's 2 scripts last time I checked as well. I can see if I can find how you publish it and publish something else. But that would be really cool. So let's say that instead of searching or Googling for everything when you need a new script, you can just start my hub and search. Has anyone already written a run script to fix the domain membership? Yes or no? And then you can just find it, say download, and it will download in your site and you can deploy it immediately. So I can see that's really useful for reports, and I can see it's really useful for everything in the future. But it just from a community standpoint, it would be very nice to have that in there so we can easily publish and then hopefully publish updates somehow as well. So if we publish, say that I publish a script to, I can publish my script to collect log files. Then I find there's a bug in that script or I did something else stupid in there. Then I can publish a new version and hopefully everyone that downloaded it will get oh, by the way, there's a new version and here's the information about that. That's my wish list at least. I have no idea if that's the plan, but that would be so cool because that's one of the things if you do a lot of blogging or tweeting today and you blog a script and then you find, oh no, there was something wrong with it and then you fix it, there's no way of pushing saying, oh, everyone that downloaded it, please download a new version because I messed up in the other one. So having something like that here so we can have an active community using the community hub, that would be really cool. So I could download my V2 of my script and do a stay instead. That would be really cool. And for technical preview as well, to sum it up, there's a good, I like to refer to this one all the time. There's a page on the docs. I think it's almost down in the end where you can actually track all the things that's not in the current branch yet. So you can actually see that BitLocker management, like the EmBam thing, what actually shows up in 1905. Improvements to Community Hub and Community Hub and GitHub connection was in 1904. Community Hub itself was in 1807. So you can always go back and say, oh, we have client-based Pixie being around since 1712. Remote control anywhere. I was close. I said 1905. It was 1906. Oh, that was so close. So we can actually see when they were introduced. I think that's like a cool history to see when they were in there. So to sum this little technical preview session up a bit early, to summary, I think there's some really cool things in here for task sequence and move to Azure or migrate to Azure, but I definitely think that the EmBam or the BitLocker enterprise management feature is the really cool thing in this technical preview, because it will save everyone that uses this today, will make their life much easier and save time and money for them. And as we always say, Configuration Manager is not dead. And I think this technical preview presentation shows just that, that there's heavy investments being done over and over and over and over again in Configuration Manager. And it's a great pleasure working with Configuration Manager. So that's basically my sum up of the technical preview part, at least. I'm not sure if there's any questions, but I will look now.
Yeah, I have assigned some questions to you.
Yeah,
So there are a few for you to look at as well.
absolutely. There was some. I said before that maybe a repository um, um, with run script would be cool. So there was a suggestion from Luna saying maybe there's a GitHub repo would be great. And yes, that would be great. I've created one many times, but I've never had the time to fulfill everything. So definitely so. That would be really cool, and everyone can commit to it as well. But it would be even cooler to see the community hub taking that responsibility. Absolutely. Let's see if there's more questions.
You do have someone hoping to see you at Ignite in Orlando, but as I understand, you have different plans, huh?
No, I won't be Ignite in Orlando this time. Maybe next year. I've already made some travel plans before and after, and family collision. So no, I won't be there. I will be at MMS Jazz Edition though, in New Orleans the week after Ignite. If you're there, that would be nice to meet everyone. Absolutely.
And there were several requests for the to have the deck made available. And for everyone that's still listening, the recording will definitely be available. I just need to break it into 2 videos and get it up on YouTube, and then we'll tweet that out. But
and look, so I didn't say something very stupid, but I don't think so this time.
nope.
Maybe it should be censored before. No. um, there's some questions in there as well. Absolutely. There was a long question out of topic as well. Let's see if we can see if I can reply to that later. Why can't I do that? Okay. Okay. A GitHub repo would be good. And that's actually a good one. Do you need all the 5 of those 5 requirements to use desktop analytics? I will fix that. You need 1 of them, and you actually need a Office 365 license being active in the tenant as well. I think that requirement is still there. The docs says that it might go away in the future, but right now that's what it says. If that didn't change now, but I think put the GitHub repo for run scripts would be a good idea without a doubt. Any other questions? So that's it basically. I got the question how often Intune is updated, and that's updated extremely often, even more often than Configuration Manager actually. Like once or twice a month, or 3 times, as many times as they need, I guess. It's a cloud service.
There's one question that just came in about the use case for application requests. Since you see a lot of environments, do you see a lot of good use cases for it?
The use cases are good because it will make. I mean, many customers use collections and AD group queries, and there's a value to that because AD groups will retain the membership even if the client is deleted from Configuration Manager, and that won't be the case if we do the application approval. So that's a change for anyone using that. Otherwise, I think the biggest use case is automation, as I said. If you have service now, why put it in a collection and wait for things to happen, or why script all these things when you can just, because one of the most expensive things we have in Configuration Manager from a performance perspective view is definitely collection updating. And if we can get rid of the collection updating, So we can use incremental collection updates for the ones that we actually want it for. That would be a good thing as well, because that's something we see a lot when we come out to a site that's configuration manager is slow, and then you have 800-900 collections with incremental updates, and that's not how the product was designed for, basically. So I think you should. I think that's a good use case. The only thing is, again, as I said before, it's hard to change. It's a bigger thing than just technology changing all those existing processes and automations and everything. So it's a bigger thing to implement than you can imagine, actually. That was a very long answer to a short question. Any other questions that I don't see? No?
No, I don't see any. I mean, I could have possibly missed a few. I do get the chat log at the end of the webinar, so I can forward the questions on to you, and we can, if you wanted to make a blog post or somehow answer questions I may have missed.
Yeah, I think I've answered all of them. Absolutely. So it should be fine. But I will fix the presentation before we share it somewhere as well. So absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. Especially clearing out the requirements for desktop analytics and making sure that, as the doc said last time, that maybe it will be different, so that it hasn't changed as well.
Okay, well, it looks like we have reached the end. Jörgen, I want to thank you so much for taking your time today, and
thank you.
Thanks again to the attendees for joining, and a special thanks to 2Point Software for providing the GoToMeeting platform, which makes it so much easier so that we can share stuff like this with everybody rather than only just a few people in the community. So thanks again, everybody, for your time and joining, and stay tuned for an announcement for our next speaker and topic.
Thank you.